Hi, I am Malka Katzenstein. I am a wellness coach. I'm really happy to be here to do this live. And I will be talking about, well, I guess we'll wait for people to join before we start, but we'll be talking about free ways to manage to care for your emotional and mental health. And that is a topic that I love because my approach to wellness is mind, body, that it's all connected, and the way we take care of our bodies has a direct effect on our mental health, and also the way we do things other than, when people say wellness, they think about physical health and what we eat and things like that, but it's so much more than that. And so this is a great topic because there are so many things that are in our control that we can actually do to help ourselves. And just doing that gives us a sense of empowerment, and also just putting in the time or even just learning about things that we can do sends a message to ourselves that we are worthy of care. And that is great. That is right there before doing anything is a great boost to our mental health and our emotional health. Just telling ourselves that we're worthy of care and that we can do things for ourselves. So I do want to start by saying that if you are struggling with something, a mental health disorder or a very challenging situation, then, or even if you feel like you're not managing day to day, then working with a therapist is something that can really help you. And that's actually, it's the way to go. That is the thing to try first. If you are okay and you just want to kind of boost this, and even if you're in therapy already and you just want to supplement it, then here are some great ways that you can boost your mental and emotional health, just doing things that are actually pretty simple. And we're going to start talking about the mind-body connection. It's real and it's very powerful. So I'm going to start talking about things that sound like I'm talking about physical health, which I am, but I'm going to start with those because they have a direct effect on how we feel emotionally and mentally, and they're actually pretty important. It's pretty much of a foundation. So the first thing I will say is to make sure that we eat properly. And I don't mean, you have to be too strict about it, but first of all, when we're hungry, we've all heard the term hangry, and that refers to when our blood sugar goes low, and that affects our mood, and it affects our function, our ability to function effectively. So we want to make sure to eat regularly throughout the day, and this is going to feed our bodies, but also feed our brains. And also, it's good to know that just eating is going to nourish your body and nourish your brain. But then there are foods that are actually really good for brain health, very important for brain health. We want to eat healthy fats, which come from things like avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds. Those are all really good sources of healthy fats that help our brain feel good and function well. We want to make sure that we eat whole grains. I know that people like to cut out carbs, and this is not about that right here, but if you are going to eat grains, whole grains are so good for your brain. Protein, it's really important. We all need protein, and so those are the kind of things that are going to help your brain function and function well, and they will have a direct effect on your mental health and your mood. So you want to start with that. You want to also try to avoid too much caffeine because that can make you jittery, and that's also something to be aware of. If you're feeling like you're just not feeling, you're jumping out of your skin, or you feel like you're maybe feeling panicky or something, and you're worried that maybe this is something that's going on with your mental health or your emotional health, check in and see how much coffee you had, because sometimes that's what it is. Also, it's really helpful to avoid alcohol because alcohol is actually a depressant. I'm not saying never have coffee and I'm not saying never have a drink. I'm just saying it's something to be mindful about and to have in moderation, because alcohol will, first of all, it will disinhibit you. It makes us relaxed, which sometimes we want, but otherwise you sometimes want to be able to be in control to a certain extent. You want to be in control. I'm not saying we shouldn't relax, but we want to be in control, and alcohol can inhibit that. And also, alcohol, believe it or not, is it's a stimulant. I know I said before it's a depressant. Sorry. It's a stimulant. It can make us feel relaxed, and then it starts getting us excited. So sometimes people who will drink at night will feel like, okay, they fall asleep, and then it kind of wakes up your body. So good nutrition is the first way to start. Let's talk about sleep. Sleep is when our brains recharge and reset. And it's important to have a certain amount of time every night. The recommended amount of hours is 7 to 9. I know that for so many people that's not realistic, but we need to do what we can to make sure that we can get as much sleep as we can, because it's really important for our brains. And so if you have enough hours of sleep, then also it gives your brain, you have enough of the different, heavy sleep, light sleep, deep sleep, light sleep, and REM, which is the rapid eye movement sleep, which is when we dream. And it's when our brains kind of make sense of all the things that happen during the day. And it's really important. Also, if we're tired, we all know this, we all know that if we're tired, it affects our mood. So we want to avoid that. And I'm talking to myself because my biggest challenge is getting enough sleep. So I get it. I'm not preaching here. I'm saying these are things that can be helpful to everybody. Another physical health thing that really helps with mental health is exercise. Exercise releases good feeling hormones that really, it's real. And anybody who's I know even people who hate exercise will find that if they've done some physical activity, even if they're hating it while they're doing it, afterwards you feel really great. So the thing about exercise is that it doesn't have to be this big, long, sweaty thing that you do. It can be even just a 10-minute walk. It's important that whatever you choose to do about exercise is something that you enjoy, because if you don't like it, you're not going to do it. And also, if you're going to do something, you might as well enjoy it, because that also affects your mental health. So if you choose something that you like, you're going to do it. Also, doesn't have to be a big deal. 10-minute walk. If you can do that during the day when you can get some vitamin D, that's great. If you can do that, take a walk with a friend, and then you're also getting some social activity there, which is also really helpful for mental health, social connection. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So food, sleep, and exercise are two physical health components that can go a long way in helping our mental and emotional health. And like I said before, taking the time for ourselves to do those things, which is not always easy. It's not always easy to eat during the day, getting enough sleep. Like I said, I know that challenge well. And exercise also, you kind of sometimes have to force yourself to do it. But making the time to do those things sends you yourself the message that you matter, that you care. And also there are ways to just say, you know what? I'm going to take some time for myself, because sometimes it does take some planning. So I want to acknowledge that it's not always easy, and that planning will help, and also going with the mindset that this is something you're doing for yourself because you deserve it. And hopefully that will get you started with noticing how you're doing things for yourself. And that's a really big component of good mental health, good emotional health, knowing that you care. about yourself. So now I'm going to talk about some non-body ways to boost mental and emotional health. And I'm going to throw out a few ideas here. And I just want to say before that no one has to do all of these. These are just some ideas, and some of them work for some people, some of them work for others, which is also important to note that there's no reason to stress about it. We can each find something that works for us. One thing that maybe we do, maybe a few things, a combination of things, and also just know that sometimes something's working for you for a while and then it stops working just because your schedule changes or you get bored or just you want to try something different. And that doesn't mean that, okay, all is lost and it's not working anymore. That's normal. So knowing that hopefully can help. So here are some ideas. And also, before I start with them, you can try, if you want to write things down and look at that list and see what sounds good to you, you can try one, you can try a few of them and give it some time. Trying it once isn't really going to give you a good idea of whether it works for you. So maybe let's say 2 weeks. I think they say that it takes 21 days to establish a habit. But it doesn't, that's not a hard and fast rule. You can try something and give it a chance and really be objective about it and then kind of assess. And if it doesn't work, then you know what, you tried it and it doesn't work. And also, these are things to not stress about because stress is going to affect your mental health too. So, and if something doesn't work for you, you can try something else. And also you can try and change things up, do things different days. So here are some ideas. Gratitude. People talk a lot about how gratitude is such an important component of self-care and mental health, taking care of your mental health. And what's interesting to know is that the brain has a negativity bias. For some reason, we are kind of wired to see the negative. And I read somewhere that it has to do with our fight or flight response. We need to always be prepared to protect ourselves from danger. So we're always going to be looking for something like that. So one way to, which is great for keeping us safe, but not always so good for our mental health. So, I was talking about positivity, and gratitude falls under that. So positivity and gratitude are related. So when we talk about gratitude, so many of us have so many great things going on, and we just sort of, I don't want to say we take it for granted, but we sometimes don't notice it unless we actually take the time to notice it. So what a lot of people find helpful is to have a gratitude journal, and also it doesn't have to be a big deal. You can start with, even if you have just a minute a day, start with writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. And also, it doesn't have to be anything big and lofty. It can be something, I don't want to minimize anything, but even something that you think might be small and inconsequential, if you're grateful for it, acknowledge that. Breathing. Breathing is a great way to support your mental health, because when we focus on our breathing and take time to take deep breaths, we're giving our brains enough oxygen, and also we calm our brains down, and it actually does calm the brain down and calm stress. And it's such a useful tool, and it's also such an easy tool because you don't need any equipment. You don't need you don't need even need a pen and paper. You don't even need your phone. You could use your phone. What I find helpful is to set reminders on my phone, for every hour. I can't say that, I will be honest and say that I don't always. Sometimes I ignore it, but I do have a reminder, and when I have time or when I am in the mindset to do it, having a reminder every hour that reminds you to breathe is a great and easy thing to do. So even just taking a few deep breaths will reset your brain. But there are different breathing techniques that you can learn about if you want to. One of the ones that are really popular, it's called 4-7-8, where you inhale for 4 seconds to the count of 4. You hold the breath to the count of 7, and then you exhale to the count of 8. And so, like I said, this just helps reset your brain and calm your brain, but it also, it just gives you also it's another way to take a break from what you're doing. And we need that sometimes. So that is one thing. Meditation is related to this. And I know that a lot of people have some idea that meditation means like sitting in, on the floor with cushions and with a yogi and everything. And it doesn't have to be that way. Meditation is also another way to quiet your brain. And also, when we practice these things, especially things like meditation and breathing, it has long-term effects on our brains. It has which has long-term effects on our level of calm, our emotional health, and our mental health. So meditation is really just sitting quietly. It's also just taking time, and it also does not have to be a big deal. It can be as little as a minute if that's all you have. And believe it or not, that does accumulate and have a positive effect on our mental health. So there are so many guided meditations that you can get from YouTube. You can get them from apps, and it doesn't even have to be that. You can also just close your eyes. You can set a timer for 1 minute, for 10 minutes, however much time you have and however much time you want to spend on it. And you can even just focus on your breath. And if you find your mind wandering, all you have to do is say, oh, hey, I lost my mind was wandering, bring it back to the breath without judgment, because in fact, just noticing that your mind wandered, that is when you know that you were noticing. That is when you know that your focus is working, because you're noticing. I know that sounds sounds a little bit confusing, but noticing that your mind wandered, that's mindfulness. That is also a very good tool to help calm you down and support mental and emotional health. Smiling or laughing is a great way to support your mental and emotional health. It also releases feel-good hormones, and it's even something that it has like a mirror effect. If you see someone smiling, then you smile. It's one of those things that gets mirrored. And also, you don't have to feel happy. So if you're worried about too much pressure to make you smile, don't even have to feel it. If you just move your mouth up in a smile, it will still have that physiological effect that will help you. And that's easy to do. Also, you don't need anything for that. Writing. Having a journal practice is really great because it helps you get out your thoughts and your feelings on paper. It can be especially helpful if you're feeling sad or angry. You don't have to show it to anybody. You don't even have to go back and read it, but just kind of like getting that out really it's a good outlet. It's a good way to just get things out of being trapped in your brain and your body. Also, you can try creative writing, because that is also a great form of expression. And that applies to any kind of creative expression. Anything that you can do that you enjoy is also a great way to support your mental and emotional health. So that's another thing. Doing things that you like, having fun. It can be so easy to just like get caught up in the day-to-day, and especially when we're not feeling great, to just kind of wallow in it. Make time. It helps sometimes to have a list of things that you enjoy so that you don't even have to spend time thinking about it. Like, I don't know, spend 5 minutes one day brainstorming, write down a list. You can always like go back to it and see what you like to do. Social interaction. I mentioned that before about how exercising with a friend is like a double whammy there. You get both of those in one. But even if not exercise, meeting a friend for coffee, meeting a friend to do another activity that you both enjoy, talking on the phone, those are all social interaction. We are social creatures, and having social connection is crucial for good health, physical health, and all of this. By the way, we're talking here about things that we can do to boost our mental and emotional health. And at the same time, like I mentioned before, that it's all our minds and our body are connected. Doing all these things for our mental health also has positive effects on our physical health. So those are some ideas that, you might want to give them a try and see how they work. And then there were some questions that followers sent in, and I'm going to address those too. So if there's time, if anybody has any other questions, you can type them in and we can, see if I haven't answered anything, I'm happy to do that too. So there are a couple of questions that people asked. So somebody asked how to break self-sabotage and finally feel like I deserve success and happiness. And that's a tough one. I want to say that if you are really feeling this in an extreme way, it's a good idea to talk to a therapist. And also, you can help yourself with maybe some affirmations, writing things down, challenge negative beliefs that you have about yourself. And with the affirmations, maybe write them down every day, part of a journaling practice, or just something that without journaling, just write that down. You can just say them to yourself. You can say them out loud. Practicing doing that in front of the mirror sounds really weird and, I don't know, might be uncomfortable, but try it a few times and see how that makes you feel. Self-compassion. That is something that I find that people don't talk about that enough. I think that a lot of us are too hard on ourselves, and a lot of times we expect validation and compassion from other people. And it's great when that happens, but we can't put all of our expectations on that. We need to learn how to give that to ourselves too. So just giving yourself some time to say, I see that you're feeling like this. That's okay. Don't beat up on yourself when you're feeling, and also don't beat up on yourself when you're feeling like that. Just kind of sit quietly with it a little bit and maybe try and come up with why you're feeling that way. And then give yourself some kindness. Notice patterns of self-sabotage. And once you start to look out for them, you can have a plan for how you want to counter that. It's not easy, and it takes practice, and I hope that this helps. Here's another question: what to do when it's Chag and you can't text or journal? So that's also hard if you're needing to have connection with somebody that's not with you, or you want to get your feelings down. So what could help then is having some quiet time by yourself, which I want to say this is important always, but especially when it's really busy over holiday and spending time with so many people, it's important to get some quiet time to yourself. And so maybe just some quiet time to reflect on how you're feeling, the things that you want to be writing down. You may not remember them when it's time to write down, but sometimes just thinking about it can help you then, instead of actually writing it, and then you can write it down afterwards. Maybe if you're by yourself and you feel comfortable speaking out loud to yourself or speaking into the mirror, maybe that can help. If you have a friend that you trust and you can ask if you can just kind of talk at your friend, just use your friend as somebody to talk to, or even ask for some feedback if that would be helpful. And also know that if you have a regular journaling practice, or any of these things that I've talked about, if you do these things regularly, they kind of have a cumulative effect, so that if there is a time, like a day or a few days, where you miss it, it's not really so, you won't find that it has such a big effect on you, because you've accumulated the benefit of it, and your body kind of, you know how to kind of reset. And then once you get back into your regular routine, you can go back to the things that you've been doing. Another question is how to manage a long break from therapy and working with my coach over at Yom Tov. And that can be really hard, especially if you feel like you need that kind of support. The best plan for that is to actually talk to your therapist or your coach and let them know that this is something that you're concerned about and this is something that you're worried about. And just talking about it can help, and also you can work together to kind of come up with alternatives, come up with a plan, come up with, some strategy to help you over that time. And also practicing some of the things that we talked about today can, like I said before, not step in for a therapist, but can be a good supplement to that. So and serve you in the times when you're kind of missing sessions. And also, holiday times are, really chaotic to our schedule. So it's really important to do the things that, which can set us off. So it's really important then to make sure that we eat and sleep, find time for ourselves, and do what we need to do to help our mental health and emotional health and physical health, of course, also. And so it can help to kind of spend some time before a holiday thinking about what you need to do, even writing it down, thinking about the things that might help you, and know that you have that. So you have you have a plan and you have some kind of strategy. And, also, like I said, some things might work sometimes, they might not work other times. So if something's not working, don't get too upset about it. Just move on and try something else. If you're not being so consistent with it, also, the important thing is to give yourself some kindness and just no judgment, just try things and see what works. If anybody those were all the things that I wanted to talk about. We have 2 more minutes. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer that. You can send them into OKclarity, and you can send them into me. And I hope that these tools that I shared can be helpful. And good luck.